why did you set the appointment to go there to the attorney's office?
Well, sir, I had been trying to see him for a while and I wasn't able to see him, so I decided to try a new name. Maybe I get a chance to see him.
Okay. Where did you get the gun?
I bought it from a pawn shop
When did you buy it?
after me and my husband separated.
How soon was that before the shooting of your attorney?
It'd been a year, sir.
So you had had the gun a year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why did you disguise yourself?
Sir, to my recollection, I didn't disguise myself. I didn't wear a wig.
To your recollection? You know if you wore a wig or not. That day, it's in
No,
your
sir,
mind.
I hate my hair. There was no wig.
Okay. What did you do with the gun afterwards?
I threw it into the water, sir.
Where?
Off a bridge.
What bridge?
I don't remember.
Now, this is a first, not just for us out of the state of Louisiana or any state. This is a first, I think, for the true crime genre. A woman who gets divorced, and instead of hunting down her ex-fling or the lover of her ex-fling, or no, she goes and kills the divorce attorney, her divorce attorney. She blames her divorce attorney on losing custody of her children. She waits months before disguising herself, creating an alias, making an appointment to the law firm to walk in and shoot him point blank range. Again, we have never seen anything like this. And it actually blows my mind that no one has done a true crime documentary on this insane case. You see, it was 43 years ago, June 14th, 1982, when she committed this crime. She was then sentenced to life in prison without the opportunity of parole. But 43 years later, at the age of 71, she is asking for a commutation of her sentence. She's asking the board to ask the governor of Louisiana to commute her sentence so she can have another chance at life. Now, we're about to go and watch this hearing. We will hear from her support and we will hear from the opposition, including the DA. And I'll tell you, this case, it has many wild twists and turns. We are going to see something happen that has never happened in all of the hearings that we have covered. So be sure to hang in there. Now, with that, let's jump in.
So you are here today seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in the 19th Judicial District in East Baton Rouge Parish in October 1982. You received a life sentence for a second-degree murder conviction. Ms. Cobb, is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am, it's correct.
Okay. So take a moment, Ms. Cobb, before we hear from your guests. What did you do to land in prison? What have you done since you've been in prison that would make us believe you're a worthy candidate for favorable consideration today?
Well, ma'am, I decided to get a divorce, and I hired Mr. George Core to help me to get a divorce. During the time came that we were to go to court to get a divorce. I was before the judge, and the judge said that permanent custody and care of my children was to be given to my husband. And at that time, ma'am, I was shocked. I didn't understand how that could be. And so I left the courtroom and I went about to have that judgment changed. And I went to various law offices, but no one was willing to take the case. And so, ma'am, I went back to Mr. Core's office and I confronted Mr. Core. I asked him why. I pulled out the gun, ma'am, and I shot Mr. Core. I'm so sorry about that. I should not have done that, and that was not the thing to do. I shot Mr. Core.
All right, so tell us about your time in prison. What have you done there?
Well, ma'am, I come here February 1st, 1983. And I've tried to be a model prisoner. I been in some self-help programs since I've been here. I've taken Celebrate Recovery, and it's been a help. They're teaching us that we're not able to change our lives on our own, that we need help, and that God is our highest power. And it teaches us that we must seek God for our help, our hang-ups, our hurts, our bad habits. I've taken Sisters Keepers. Sisters Keepers taught us about the fact that we didn't have to put up with abusive relationships. Sisters Keepers taught us that that there are resources and contacts that we can make during abusive situations. And it taught us about the various signs of early abuse. I've taken the Victims Impact, and Victims Impact help us to walk into our victims' shoes. It helped us to understand that our crime also impacts our the neighborhood, the community, and it taught us how the victim felt, what the impact was for our victims. Ma'am, I've been in classes in culinary arts. I took culinary arts, and it taught us about cooking and about food preparations, and we had courses in soups, sauces. We had courses in baking. It taught us how to bake, and we had courses in cake decoration. It taught us about stocks, taught us about meat and different cuts, taught us how to prepare certain dishes. It taught us about full cold food preparations.
That
And
sounds like an informative class. We're gonna move on. We're gonna ask to have some specific questions for you in a few minutes. But
yes,
next we'd like to hear from Morgan Thomas. Maybe you can summarize that for us, please.
Yes, ma'am. So Ms. Cobbs is a minimum 3 trustee here at the facility. She's low risk and low need score. Her last write-up was in 2020. Like I said, she is a minimum, but just due to age and, not as young and moving about, she works in our dorm, just helping out cleaning and just kind of mentor some of the other ladies that are new to transfer in and transition in. But I know she went into a little bit of detail, and I do think probably Mr. Stas will go into a few other things that she's participated and while she's been here. But if she is given a favorable outcome today, Mr. Blake will go over. She is a candidate for parole project, so I know Mr. Blake will go over the specifics there.
Okay, thank you very much. We have there at LCIW, Candace, who would like to speak. We'd like to hear from her.
Good morning to the honorable members of the board. My name is Candace Matthews. I'm 48 years old. I'm Carolyn Cobbs' daughter, married with 2 kids. One is in the Air Force, the other one is in college that's here with me today. I'm here to speak on behalf of my mother, Carolyn Cobbs. Despite her incarceration, my mom has been the loving support my entire life, nonstop. Even 40 years, although she's been here 40 years, she's still been that constant love and devotion person in my life and in my children's life. Most recently, I've been diagnosed with an uncurable red blood cancer, and my mom would constantly call me after appointments, after treatments. She tried to research to see what can help me after my treatments, but she's always been there for me, nonstop, through this whole situation. I know my mom is deeply remorseful for what she has done, for what pain she caused the victim's family. And for that, I'm sorry. She's always, for decades, have expressed her actions to me and my brother about how sorry she is that she did this. And if granted release, she will be home with a loving family, a supportive family. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
And thank you for your remarks. We appreciate hearing from you. We also have in support that wants to speak Mr. Jason Poor on Zoom.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I'm here today to humbly and earnestly request clemency for Carolyn Cobbs. This is not a request made lightly, nor is one meant to overlook the gravity of her actions. Instead, is an appeal to recognize the extraordinary growth, transformation, and humanity that she has demonstrated during her years of incarceration, and the healing and the closure of her clemency means to me, the son of the victim, George Emmett Core in this case. I do believe in the concept of paying one's debt to society, and Ms. Cobbs has paid her debt and now longs for the chance to reunite with her family and give back to her community in meaningful ways. I would like to be able to facilitate that. I don't want to be responsible for keeping a family apart any longer. Her children and grandchildren are waiting for her. They see in her not only a mother and grandmother, but a source of guidance, love, and stability that their lives have been missing. Granting her clemency would not only restore Ms. Cobb's freedom, but it would also strengthen a family that has long awaited her return. I ask you to consider the full measure of her humanity, Ms. Cobb's humanity, the struggles she has overcome, the positive changes she has made, and the hope she now carries for the future. Clemency is an act of justice tempered with compassion, and Ms. Cobbs has shown through her actions, her words, and her unwavering commitment to growth that she is worthy of this mercy. I believe that continuing to keep her in prison does not serve justice any further. She has been punished, she has paid her debt, and she has used her time to truly transform. Granting her clemency would not erase what happened, but would recognize the humanity in her and the possibility of redemption. It would also allow me, as the son of the man she harmed, to show that forgiveness is healing. Holding on to anger alone does not heal. Forgiving Ms. Cobbs is a means of closure for me and will allow me to bring a measure of positivity back into the world. My mother, Carolyn Leftwich, is also in person in Baton Rouge at this hearing, and she staunchly advocates for Ms. Cobb's release as well, having written a letter to this effect on her behalf. And so for these reasons, I respectfully ask you to grant clemency to Carolyn Cobbs so that she may step forward into the next chapter of her life, not as a prisoner defined by her past, but as a woman who has paid her debt, ready to contribute and eager to live out her remaining years in service to her family and her community. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and your commitment to justice.
Thank you, Mr. Core. We do have the letter of support from Ms. Leftwich, along with a card that she wrote today in support. We also have Emily Bayer, a green card in support. That is Mr. Core's sister. She says, Ms. Cobb made an awful choice 43 plus years ago that forever changed my family. My brother lost his father that day. Her children lost their mother. I believe that she has served her time and is no risk to society, and my family would like to see her return to her family. Thank you all for being here. But we do have some opposition today on Zoom that we'd like to hear from. We have, let's see, we have Liz Core and Lance Core, who are both, I believe, in the same location. So we'd like to hear from you folks.
Okay, can you hear us?
Yes.
Great. My name is Lance Sterling Core. I'm the younger brother of the murdered victim, George Jimmy Core Jr. I'm the uncle of Jason, which I am estranged from and amazed to hear his side of this story. He's never attended the hearings or the trial 40 plus years ago. And we would have had a third person here who is a mental health counselor by the name of Brant Hardy, who was going to talk about recidivism, which you all fine people already know so much about. On behalf of my family, we begged this board to deny Ms. Cobb's commutation. And by the way, Ms. Leftwich was a divorce from my brother when this all took place. So she was not his wife. Let's be clear about that. My brother was a pillar of the Baton Rouge community, being one of the first lawyers to advertise, and he also ran for sheriff in the 1970s. And by the way, one reason why our face is covered is we are genuinely scared for any type of revenge and our own family safety from her or anybody else on her team. At all the other hearings, and this is about the fourth or fifth one, we've always been in person. Again, this is about the fourth time we've had to retry her for this offense. I would gladly meet yearly for the same opportunity. I just want to remind the board that we had over 40 letters in opposition, and I could have produced a lot more. And I can't thank the victim services people for all their fine efforts and y'all's efforts as well. We feel it'd be such a slap in the face to the judicial process to commute this sentence after all the incredible hard work by so many dedicated people, such as the jury. This was a jury trial. A young detective, now DA, we all know him, Mr. Hiller Moore, and the prosecutors is John Sinkfield, who came out of retirement to work with Governor Landry now, plus all the judges. Ms. Cobbs paints a really pretty picture, and you people don't know a lot of the facts of the trial. But let me just highlight a few that's critical. First of all, Ms. Cobbs never gave up the 38 caliber handgun and never revealed her accomplice drove away the getaway car. This is probably a detail my nephew doesn't even know about. In addition, the level of premeditation was extensive. It had to cover weeks. She was well known, obviously, like she said, by my brother and his full-time secretary. So she planned the murder carefully by making an appointment with a temporary secretary that was on duty at the time. So this took a lot of forethought and intelligence. She assumed a name, not her name, so she could disguise herself, and had a hit list of other attorneys to harm. I bet you my family doesn't know that part. After filling out some needed paperwork, she entered my brother's office and, like she said, shot him in the chest dead. Then she fled in that awaiting car. Remember, she had an accomplice, with this that she never revealed, nor that handgun. So she fled in the awaiting car. She had plenty of time to change her mind and back out of it. So this was premeditation of the highest degree. She was not a 16-year-old teenager hopped up on hormones, but a 28-year-old grown woman. I believe she had a criminal record before the murder, and please notice the severity and number of write-ups as an inmate. It's remarkable how she's all of a sudden remorseful. At every hearing we've been to, she has shown no remorse and at times acted maniacal. The biggest reveal at the last hearing was a question that the pardon board then asked her, "Are you remorseful for your actions?" And she replied in a strong, clear voice, "No, I would do it all the same." He had it coming. He had it coming. That statement says it all. And I bet you that's something my family doesn't know about because they don't participate. She's a cold-blooded monster, premeditated killer that had no remorse and the will, the capabilities, and the intellect and the desire to harm herself and others if allowed to be released in this community. I truly believe that. She's only a few years older than me. She has plenty time to live. We also feel the amount of time has zero to do with the release. It's only been 40 years. That was yesterday to me. I think about this every day. So can you guarantee me and my family, if she's released, she will not harm herself or others? I think not. And the only way to really do that is to keep her behind bars. Look, I'm all for second chances. And I could be for a second chance for violent offenses, but this is not a violent offense. This is very much a violent offense with major premeditation involved and a hit scenario. Where's my brother's second chance? I know some people will say, oh, the penal system in Louisiana is overcrowded, but I guarantee you it'll never be overcrowded enough to not have a place for people like her. And this is the first time that I've seen her children there. She's never had much family support, if any, as far as I remember. And I know a lot of people say what they need to come out for their well-being, their mental health, and to interact with the community and be with their family because their family needs them so much. Well, where's her family been for the first 40 years? Okay, nevertheless, in conclusion, please do not commute this sentence. If it is granted, she is under 2nd Edwards Act 122, just a hop, skip, and a jump to a full pardon. She is young with many years to live. So please give us all the peace of mind we deserve, all of us, and deny this commutation. Stay the course and give us what we have been promised. Honestly, the best thing probably for her and for everybody, if she's been so helpful in prison system, is to stay there and help those people for the rest of her natural life and let us go on and again, give us what we bargained for. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Core. Now, is Liz with you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, could we hear your statement, please? Could you be brief? I'm sorry to ask you that. But we are
Certainly.
sit on-
I really don't have too much to add. My husband's speech was quite full of facts. I attended every hearing with my deceased mother-in-law, Marvine Kaur, the mother of the victim, George Emmett Kaur Jr. She had lost her mother the year before, 2 years before, then her husband had died. Emmett lived down the street from her and was killed the following year. We attended every hearing. As my husband said, Ms. Cobbs never showed any remorse. She never, as he said, I was a witness to her saying that she would have done it all over again. And as we left as my mother-in-law shared her story at the last hearing, she said, I don't know if I'll be here if she tries to get out again. And that's when I pledged that I would be in her stead. As we were leaving, a very handsome man stopped us in his full military dress uniform and said, thank you to us for being at the hearing, as he was her son and he would not be the man he is today if he was involved in her life. He was deployed at Desert Storm in '92 at the first hearing, and I guess in subsequent hearings. But that did give us some comfort that our work was not for naught.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate hearing from you. Before I hear from the DA's office in East Baton Rouge, Mr. Morrows, we'd like to hear your presentation.
Yes, thank you so much, Board Chair Renatza. I did also want to mention that Mr. Brandon Matthews, who's Ms. Cobb's son, he's present in Baton Rouge, and I believe he was one of our speakers list. I didn't know what the best time to have him speak was, but I just wanted to bring that to the board's attention.
Yeah, I don't have him listed as speaking. It's not indicated that he wishes to speak. So we'll just go ahead and hear your presentation now.
Okay, thank you so much for having me and for giving us the time to have this hearing today. Look, there is absolutely no question that in 1982, Carolyn Cobbs committed a horrible, inexcusable crime. And I think this may not have been mentioned before, but Ms. Cobbs has readily admitted that for decades. She confessed to the case when the police interviewed her. She stipulated to the facts of her crime at trial, and she has tearfully expressed her regret and remorse to her children for decades. Brandon Matthews, I think that was the gentleman that might have just been referred to. That's her son who was in the military, and he wrote in a letter of support that his mother had been talking to him about how awful her actions were throughout his adult life through these 43 years. And as we provided in the video that we sent the board, a video filmed several years ago before Ms. Cobbs had this pardon hearing date, she has been incredibly remorseful, and she's been thinking about the life of Mr. Jason Kaur and what it was like for him to grow up without a father, as well as the rest of the family, as well as the community, including the legal community in Baton Rouge. Today, it's been over 43 years since Ms. Cobbs committed her crime, and we all know that no amount of time can repair the harm that she did, but there are some real, credible, strong reasons we know that Ms. Cobbs has demonstrated that the crime was a complete aberration from who she is as a human being. Before Ms. Cobbs went to prison, she had never been arrested, 0 times for nothing. And I know this has been really painful for the entire Kaur family, but there are some things that I just want to make sure that we have accurate. She had never been arrested before. Her parents didn't make it past middle school, but she got a high school education. And after she graduated high school, she got married and she had 2 children, Brandon and Candace. And she spent her life trying to create a better life for them. She worked, and while she worked, she was also simultaneously going to nursing school so they could have a better life than she did. Before she committed this crime, she unexpectedly lost permanent custody of her 2 children, then 5 and 7 at the time, in an uncontested divorce proceeding where her husband did not show up. And so she was shocked by that. She went to multiple attorneys trying to get her kids back. As you read, one of them took her money, but then didn't do anything. This is not Mr. Kaur, this is another individual. And when he gave her money back, the check bounced. And on top of that, as you heard as you read in the letter from Brandon Matthews, as well as in the letter from Patricia Matthews. Patricia Matthews is the woman that Ms. Cobbs' ex-husband married after her. Ms. Cobbs' ex-husband was preventing her from even seeing the children. One time when she tried to go see her kids, he slapped her so hard that she almost fell to the ground. And so this is the context in which Ms. Cobbs had a mental breakdown, felt like the world was completely collapsing on her, and committed this horrible crime, which she deeply, deeply regrets. And there are no excuses for what she did, but I do want to just address a couple things that were mentioned that were not anywhere in the transcript of police reports. There was nothing about a getaway driver. There was testimony at the case that she actually went to confront Mr. Kaur, but I don't think there was any evidence that she knew what was going to happen and knew that she was going to completely lose it and shoot him when she walked into that room. And that doesn't make any excuses for what she did. What she did was wrong, inexcusable, and horrible, but I did review the transcript carefully, and I wanted to provide that information to the board. Since Ms. Cobbs has been in prison, she has grown into a thoughtful and a humble woman of faith. She's a 71-year-old great-grandmother, and her time in prison hasn't always been smooth or easy, but she has addressed the underlying issues that brought her to prison, and she has demonstrated that she will succeed if given a second chance. She's addressed her mental health issues, which were underlying some of the reasons she got to prison. She has seen a counselor regularly. She completed a group cognitive behavioral therapy group for depression. And she's taken classes like Thinking for a Change, which have taught her how to address and deal with life's inevitable challenges in a thoughtful and productive way. We did have Ms. Cobbs evaluated by a psychiatrist just this past July by Dr. McConville. He does work for the state at Elms. He's appointed by courts to do competency proceedings. And he found that she is psychiatrically stable. He found that her depression is being appropriately treated. She expressed her deep remorse to him, and he also found that she was not a danger to herself or others, and that is underscored by her Tiger risk score, which of course the board has and the warden mentioned. To ensure that she's prepared to re-enter society, Ms. Cobbs has dedicated herself to her educational and job skills. In the 1990s, she got a college degree while at LCIW, and she was on the dean's list and got an award for excellent attendance. She also has a diploma in culinary arts, which the board mentioned. And if she is released, she could work at the Thai restaurant where her daughter's best friend owns, and she'd be able to be employed there and work there. And she also has awards for her work as a micrographics technician. So she has really done a lot in prison to better herself. As the board read in the letter from Dr. McConville, Ms. Cobb's memory is declining. She is having some of those issues as she gets older, but despite that, she is still in program. She's still trying to better herself. She's still trying to be the best version of herself she can be. As in addition, beyond all this, Ms. Cobbs has truly centered her family and her faith. Her one main hope is that she have a few years where she can spend some time attending Beacon Light in Baton Rouge with her daughter, where she can help her son grow vegetables on his farm, or where she can volunteer at a food bank in Baton Rouge. Beyond this family support, she obviously has the support of the Parole Project. We didn't ask Mr. Blake to speak just because we know the board is very familiar with the program, but they are willing to offer her full support, including a social worker if necessary. And I know Mr. Blake will answer any questions if the board has that. After serving over 43 years, Ms. Cobbs is one of the longest serving women in Louisiana prisons. And so in recognition of that, in recognition of the fact this might be one of her last chances, or possibly her last chance to ever have an opportunity of freedom, we would ask the board to consider commuting her sentence to a term of years with parole eligibility. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Does anybody have any questions of Mr. Blake on the Parole Project?
I do.
Okay.
Mr. Blake, how long are y'all willing to keep Ms. Cobb if she was to be granted today?
Sir, as long as we need to. We're
Okay,
in
so,
a position to do that for.
I mean, so a year is not asking for too much, huh?
No, sir, not at all.
Because I mean, she has mental health problems and all of that, that would have to be looked at. Okay, that's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Not,
All right, let's hear, Ms. Barbera, could we hear from the DA's office, please?
Good afternoon to you, Chairman Renats, and your fellow board members. I will not repeat the things that Lance Core and his wife stated. I certainly echo their thoughts and their opinions. The one thing that concerned me at the outset of this hearing was when Ms. Cobbs was asked what brought her to being incarcerated. She left out the fact that she went and armed herself with the .38 caliber weapon before she went to the office and made the appointment under an assumed name. And the shooting took place relatively quickly once she was in Emmett's office. So as Lance Core stated, this was a premeditated execution, shot the man in the heart. This was not an act of, although she was angry, it was not an act of rage. It was clearly thought out and it was planned out. I having appeared before the board many times over the years, yes, she's been there over 40 years, but we have seen offenders that have been there longer and had significantly less write-ups. 111 write-ups, I believe, is extremely significant. I'm concerned about the last one in 2020 being an aggravated fighting. The letter dated July 2nd of 2025 from the Assistant Mental Health Director, Ms. Collins, specifically references Ms. Cobbs having a severe mental illness, and her remission and stability is only referenced as being at a 6-month period. So I am extremely concerned about recommending to the governor that he release this woman who I submit is still in somewhat of a denial as to how premeditated her actions were, who has this severe degree of mental illness and has retaliated against someone in her past for doing something that she felt as if, was wrong. We respectfully ask that, that a recommendation not be made to the governor that she be released. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Cobbs, your case was assigned to Mr. Freeman. Would you answer any questions, please?
okay, Ms. Cobb, how long after the court hearing did this event take place?
I don't understand what you're saying, sir.
How long after you went to court, lost your kids, did you make the appointment and shoot the victim?
Sir, after we went to court and my children was awarded to my ex-husband,
Correct.
I spent months trying to
Okay.
find another attorney.
Okay, so this wasn't the next week, and this was months later. Were you very frustrated because you couldn't find another attorney?
Sir, I was depressed. I was distraught. And I was in torment over the fact that my ex-husband had been given custody of my children.
And
I'm
if
sorry.
well,
I'm
you were
sorry
hour
for my
late-
actions.
You were an hour late for court?
An hour late for court, sir?
Yeah, you late for court that morning of the custody hearing.
Not to my knowing, sir.
Okay, the records state that you were an hour late. When you got there, they would ask you to sign papers giving up your kids, which you didn't want to do. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You have a very good relationship with your children, I see. Is that true? How often y'all communicate?
Well, sir, they visit me on a regular basis.
Okay. You see your grandchildren also?
Yes, sir.
I need to state, I mean, as we saw, we have strong law enforcement opposition, also strong victim opposition, but we have both sides from the victim opposition, some in favor, some opposed. Your mental health, Ward, how under control is her mental health? I see she's level 3.
Yeah, she is, she has been stable on her medication and she is medication compliant. So we have not had any, recent issues or concerns at this point.
And I saw, I mean, maybe I was looking, but at one place, they said that she had 121 write-ups, other 111. How many actual write-ups does she have?
$121.
Okay, and when was the last?
2020.
Okay, it was still 2020?
Yes, sir, June of 2020.
Okay, because I saw that, that we didn't have them all. Okay, and, how community service have you done in prison? Have you done anything for other inmates?
Yes, sir. I clean up on the weekend, when the housekeepers are not on duty. I've worked on floors for banquets, stripping floors, mopping floors. On some weekends when the yards were dirty, I've come out and helped sanitize the yards, help clean up the yard, get out the trash and garbage out the yard. Worked in the dorm.
All right, and were you on drugs or any kind of alcohol the day that you shot the victim?
No, sir.
So there's no doubt, it does seem like that you knew what you were doing. I mean, were you in a mental rage or what?
Sir, I went there with questions and I didn't know. I didn't have any answers to, and it just, I don't know. I just lost it, sir.
Okay, I have no further questions, sir.
We have a question? All right, I don't see any other questions, Ms. Cobbs. I guess we are prepared to vote. Mr. Green?
This is a very, very tough case because you've been in jail 42 years. I know your disciplinary hasn't been great. You are a first offender, and I understand. I mean, going through divorces is tough. I know about them. Child custody is real tough. 42 years. My vote today is going to be commute to 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. We have both sides of the family on either side, and we do have law enforcement opposition, but that's my vote today.
Mr. Taylor?
My vote is also to grant commute to 99 years.
Mrs. Stapleton?
My vote is deny because it was premeditated. You did go in there, you had the gun when you went in there. I know that you were upset about losing the children, there's no doubt about that. But we all know that that wasn't the answer. And you do have strong law enforcement opposition. Victim opposition is split, that's true too. And you've served 43 years, but you did deliberately take a man's life. So my vote is to deny.
Mr. Prater?
My vote is to deny victim opposition, law enforcement opposition, and the premeditated nature of a very severe violent crime.
All right, Ms. Cobbs, you didn't get the vote you needed today for a favorable recommendation. You got two votes that were favorable, but 2 that were to deny. So the outcome of today's proceeding is your application's been denied, ma'am. Warden, that concludes our business there. We're going to sign off at 12:38. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, guys, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere. Remember at the beginning of the hearing, I told you that we've seen something happen in this hearing that we've never seen before. Well, what happened is that the pardon board did not allow all of her registered speakers to speak on her behalf. So we're coming back for a second hearing. We're coming back to the present day, April 2026. You see, this hearing happened 8/25/2025, but then they filed an appeal and said, you didn't let all of our speakers speak. So now they're back. And she has a second bite at the apple, a second chance to strategize with everybody on how she's going to react, on what she'll say. Will she be more truthful? So, anyways, enough of me talking. Let's just jump in. This next hearing, I think, is fascinating, and I'll unpack it with details at the end. Let's go.
So we are here. You had a hearing in August of last year, August 2025. And at that time, since that hearing, we've rescheduled another hearing for you because there was an error that was made. All of your speakers who had signed up to speak in support were not allowed to speak. It was brought to our attention that could have been a violation of the public meetings law based on our own rules. So we've scheduled you for a new hearing today, and that's why we're here. Your case has been assigned to Mr. Prater. He's going to have some questions for you, and then we'll hear from the folks that want to speak in support and those who want to speak in opposition, and then we'll have an interview of sorts after your attorney gives us their presentation. So you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cobb, good morning.
Good morning.
Seemed like I just talked to you.
Yes, sir. It's been a couple of months.
But I've read the case once again, and I've listened to your video once again, and or this time, and I really I want you to. I don't really think we need to go over the entire case again, but I want to turn it over to you as quickly as I can for you to try to convince us, all four of us, why you think that you're deserving of this commutation of your sentence and eligibility for parole. I want to give you another chance, and I promise you, I voted against you last time, and I want to assure you I have a completely open mind. And so I want you to try to convince the board that you've done everything necessary to earn this second chance. And so I want to turn it over to you, and then I want to hear from the warden, see if there's been any changes, and I want to hear her present her case again about the kind of person that you've been since you've been incarcerated under her tutelage. Okay, go ahead. I'm ready. I said all that to try to get you to not be nervous, okay?
Well, sir, after spending 7 years in an abusive marriage, I decided to get a divorce. And I decided to hire Mr. George Emmett Court to get that divorce. And when time came for us to go to court to settle the divorce, the judge said that permanent custody and control of my children had been given to my ex-husband. Sir, I was shocked at this turn of events. And so I was shocked and confused that my husband could be given and ended up with protection, custody, and control of our children. And he did not even attend a hearing neither did he have representation from an attorney. So I went to get my divorce. I got my divorce. And I also went about trying to get someone to help me to get my children back. I went from law office to law office, trying to get help to get my children back. And so I ran across this attorney who told me that for $500 that he would be able to help me get my children back. And so I paid him $500, but he did no work. He did nothing. And so I got my money back. Finally, I went and I ran across this one attorney who told me that once a decision has been made concerning custody of children, that it is almost never reversed. And so upon hearing this, sir, I was discouraged and I became very disturbed. My world had come to an end. All hope was gone. I was confused and in tormented by the things that took place. I went to confront Mr. Core to ask some questions. I shot Mr. Core. I panicked and I ran from the office. And I am sorry for shooting Mr. Core. I'm sorry that I let my emotions get the better of me. Mr. Coors and Miss Carter, I cannot imagine how you must have felt upon hearing the death of your father and your brother.
Speak to the board, okay?
Your world,
Just say, they don't want you to address them directly, so just say, I'm so sorry for their loss. As opposed to you.
sorry. I'm sorry that I took Mr. Core's life. I'm sorry that I just let my emotions get the better of me. I was not myself.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. That coupled with what you said in the video and with what you said at the first hearing, I think that's what I wanted to hear. Warden, so let's see, Ms. Cobbs, before I finish, Ms. Cobbs, is that all? I didn't interrupt you in your statement?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll get into a little bit more with you in a little bit when the board has a chance to ask some questions. Warden, would you tell us about Ms. Cobb and her behavior since you've seen her and since you've been
Yes,
with her?
sir. Ms. Cobb lives in our assisted living dormitory. So she's not, out there working every day, but she does do housekeeping and whatnot in the housing unit. She has not had a write-up since 2020. So the entire time I've been at LCIW, I've not had any issues with her, seen any issues with her. She is low risk and low needs. I know that Mr. Blake is on, so he'll probably speak to Parole Project and any transition plan issues, but she is a minimum custody inmate. And like I said, she had, in the past completed various CTE classes and things of that nature, but she is in our assisted living housing unit now.
Okay, thank you, Warden. We appreciate that very much. And now we'll move on to those that will be speaking in support. And then we will speak to those that are in opposition to this request. And so we'll begin. Let's see. Okay, gotcha. Okay, let me look at my notes here to make sure we don't miss anything. Mr. Brandon Matthews, who is at LCIW, and I believe that is your son, and so we'd like to hear from him. Mr. Matthews?
Good morning. Good morning to the honorable members of the board and the family and friends of Mr. Emmett Core. My name is Brandon Matthews. I am Carolyn Cobbs' son. I'm here today to respectfully ask for mercy. My mother is 71 years old and she has grown older and has health issues, and they have grown too. And she has begun to struggle with comprehension and memory. My greatest wish in life is to spend a little time with her before long, something that I've not done since I was a little boy. At the time of the tragedy, I was 7 years old. Before my parents got divorced, my mom did her best for us. She was loving and caring, but I also witnessed difficult relationship with my mother and my father. My father was very violent to my mother. I remember him smacking her around a little bit, hitting her in the face and screaming at her at various times. I remember being very scared and confused. When they got a divorce, my father would let my mom see us, wouldn't let her see us for months. This was deeply painful for me and my sister. And I never imagined my mom would end up committing such a horrible crime, but she did. And over the years, we talked about this and the turmoil she was experiencing. In no way this excuses what she did. Even while in prison, my mom has been very influential in our lives, teaching us the importance of serving our country and gaining an education. She is the key reason why I'm an Army veteran today. My daughter is an Army veteran, and my son is currently serving United States active duty Army right now. And my sister also works for the fire department. When my sister was diagnosed with a rare form of blood cancer, my mom researched some foods my sister could eat during her treatment and called her every day before her chemo session. Over the years, we have had many long talks what my mom had done to a family that she didn't know, and she has instead she should have gotten some type of mental counseling. We would often talk about Mr. Core's family and what they must have gone through, and how much she wished she could express her remorse to them. I had the opportunity to meet Mr. Core's son, who I truly believe is a very wonderful and beautiful human being. I had the chance to hug him and ask him to forgive my mom and our family for the tragic harm that my mom caused in his life. I've also heard Mr. Core's brother express the pain that he went through because of my mom, and how he thinks about his brother every day. And I also think about him every day. I took those words to heart. Regardless of how any member of the Core's family feel about my mother's release, I'm very sorry for their pain and will always hold them in my heart. In closing, my mom means the world to me. I know she's not entitled to forgiveness or to clemency, but I humbly ask the board to consider letting me and my family take care of her for the remaining years outside prison walls. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. We'll take those words under consideration and appreciate that. The next up is Dr. McConville. Dr. Brad McConville will be speaking from Zoom or on Zoom. Doctor, would you tell us what you have to say, please, sir?
Sure. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak today. My name is Brad McConville. I'm in board certified internal medicine, psychiatry, and forensic psychiatry. I work for Tulane School of Medicine, but I also work for the State Forensic Hospital in Jackson. And I do risk assessments for patients. So I think a lot about about the relationship between mental illness and violence and recidivism, as I have to advise courts frequently on those issues. So I had the opportunity to evaluate Ms. Cobbs last summer for the first time and then reevaluated her last week. And from a psychiatric perspective, she suffers from major depressive disorder and chronic anxiety. These are conditions that have been seemingly well treated for a number of years now. She does have mild memory impairment that I was able to determine, but she has responded to treatment. I think that she was, in my evaluations of her, cooperative, thoughtful. She has good insight. She told me about the circumstances surrounding the offense, and she did express, I thought, some sincere remorse. It was evident based on, her history and my experience talking about trauma and stressors that lead to behavior, that she was experiencing really severe psychological distress at the time of the offense in question. But then looking at her actual risk factors for future violence, I think that she is an exceptionally low risk category, and I'll explain why. So she is, female, lower risk. She's elderly. She doesn't have a significant substance issue. She doesn't have any personality disorders. She had no criminal history prior to this offense. And then not only does she have sort of an absence of those really significant clinical risk factors, but she also has a number of protective factors. Surprisingly, she's remained in very strong and sustained support from her family, her children and grandchildren. She's been engaged in work, and I believe that she has gone through rehabilitation and developed a lot of effective coping skills that she didn't have prior to this long period of incarceration. And I think importantly, she has a clear and structured recovery and reentry plan to work with the Parole project. So from forensic psychiatric perspective, I think that there's no evidence to suggest that Ms. Cobbs poses a meaningful risk to public safety if released under these structured parole conditions. I've looked at some research indicating that she's in a very low risk category. So in closing, I would like to respectfully submit that Ms. Cobbs meets the criteria for clemency consideration based on her low risk of recidivism, strong protective factors, documented rehabilitation, and a structured supportive release plan. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you, Dr. McConville. It's very concise, and we appreciate you being on Zoom with us. Okay, let's see. I think the next one to speak is going in support is going to be Jason. Let's see, Sterling Core.
Please go, Jason.
Jason.
Please go, Jason.
Jason,
Yeah.
okay, Jason Core. Green. Okay, Jason Core. Mr. Core,
Mr.
you
Core's
with
on
us?
mute. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, there you go.
Hi, I'm Jason Core. I'm here today to humbly and earnestly request clemency for Carolyn Cobbs. This is not a request made lightly, nor it is one meant to overlook the gravity of her past actions. Instead, it is an appeal to recognize the extraordinary growth, transformation, and humanity that she has demonstrated during her years of incarceration, and the healing and closure her clemency means to me, the son of the victim, George Emmett Core in this case. Since Ms. Cobb's last hearing, my aunt and father's sister, Diane Carter, wrote a letter in support of Ms. Cobb's clemency. In that letter, she wrote, "I believe that Ms. Cobbs is remorseful for what she did. It is time for healing and forgiveness." And I share my aunt's sentiments completely. In my view of justice, I need to believe in the concept of paying one's debt to society. And I feel she has paid her debt. And Ms. Cobbs now longs for the chance to reunite with her beautiful family and give back to her community in meaningful ways. I want to help facilitate that. I met with Brandon and Candace, her lovely son and daughter, and I saw so much of myself in them, and we had quite a lot in common. They see in her not only a mother, but a source of guidance, love, and stability that their lives have been missing. Granting Ms. Cobb's clemency would not only restore her freedom, but it would also strengthen a family that has long awaited her return. This is a gift I would be proud to help provide. I ask you to consider the full measure of Ms. Cobb's humanity, the struggle she has overcome, the positive changes she has made, and the hope she now carries for the future. Clemency is an act of justice tempered with compassion, and Ms. Cobbs has shown through her actions, her words, and her unwavering commitment to growth that she is worthy of this mercy. I believe that continuing to keep her in prison does not serve justice any further. She has been punished, she has paid her debt, and she has used her time to truly transform. I don't feel she would pose any threat to anyone if released. Granting her clemency would not erase what happened, but it would recognize the humanity in her and the possibility of redemption. It would also allow me, as the son of the man she harmed, to show that forgiveness is healing. Holding on to anger alone does not heal. Forgiving Ms. Cobbs is a means of closure to me and will allow me to bring a measure of positivity back into the world. My mother, Carolyn Leftwich, is also in person at this hearing and staunchly advocates for Ms. Cobbs' release, having also written a letter to this effect on her behalf. And so for these reasons, I respectfully ask you to grant clemency to Carolyn Cobbs so that she may step forward into the next chapter of her life, not as a prisoner defined by her past, but as a woman who has paid her debt, ready to contribute and eager to live out her remaining years in service to her family and her community. I appreciate your time, your consideration, and your commitment to justice. Thank you.
Mr. Core, thank you very much for those words, and we appreciate you being on Zoom with us today. Okay, I think that if I'm not mistaken, and I'll have somebody bring my attention, we'll turn it over to Avery Nolan. Is that correct, Mr. Moraz?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Just want to make sure we're all in one accord here. Avery Nolan, would you speak to us, please?
Yes, sir. Good morning. My name is Avery Nolan, and I'm a student attorney with the Tulane Law School Domestic Violence Clinic. Thank you for your time and consideration today and for hearing Ms. Cobbs' case. We understand the board heard Ms. Cobbs' case last year, so we would like to first focus on what is different today, including additional support from the victim's family and critical information the board learned from Ms. Cobbs' son, Brandon, about his parents' relationship. At age 10, Jason Core lost his father when Ms. Cobbs committed a horrible crime. At ages 7 and 5, Brandon and Candace Matthews lost their mother's physical presence in their lives when she was arrested and incarcerated for this crime. It has now been over 43 years since the tragedy that transformed the lives of these children. Jason Core already spoke in favor of Ms. Cobbs at her last hearing, but since then, he, Brandon, and Candace met for the first time. They bonded over their shared love of music, the pain they suffered growing up without one of their parents, and their journeys toward healing and forgiveness. Today, they are united in asking this board to recommend Ms. Cobbs' release. Also, since the last hearing, the victim's sister was so moved by her nephew's ability to find forgiveness that she too has decided to support Ms. Cobbs' release. We recognize there is no one way to respond to or heal from a horrible crime, but we believe that it is a testament to forgiveness and mercy and a testament to Ms. Cobbs' growth in prison that the victim's son and sister are not just expressing a lack of opposition to Ms. Cobbs' release, but that for them, it's an essential part of their healing. In addition to the strength and support for Ms. Cobbs' release, we would like to address the circumstances of Ms. Cobbs' life leading up to the crime, some of which the board heard for the first time from her son today. Ms. Cobbs married an older boyfriend right after high school and later became the mother of 2 children she absolutely adored. She hoped for a loving and respectful marriage, but that was not her reality. Her reality was that her husband would beat her when she did not live up to his expectations, like when dinner wasn't ready when he would get home from work. Ms. Cobbs' son, Brandon, has vivid memories of this abuse. Ms. Cobbs eventually sought a divorce, but her husband, who had abused her for years, ended up being awarded custody of her children, despite the fact that he'd never shown up to court to contest the divorce. Ms. Cobbs was confused and distraught. After the divorce, even though she had visitation rights, her ex-husband would not allow her to see her children. One time when she tried to see them, he struck her in the face, just like he did when they were married. The Christmas after the divorce, Ms. Cobbs bought presents for her children, but he prevented the kids from seeing her. He experiences of trying to get her children back caused Ms. Cobbs to feel like her world was falling apart and led her to a mental breakdown. Ms. Cobbs went to Mr. Core's office to try to understand how this had happened, and in the several minutes she was in his office, she completely lost it and committed a horrible, inexcusable crime, shooting him. And for that, she is deeply remorseful. Of course, none of this excuses Ms. Cobbs' actions, but it does provide context about how a hardworking mother of 2 who had never been arrested before ended up committing this crime. In the 43 plus years since Ms. Cobbs has been in prison, she has done everything in her power to atone for her crime. I won't repeat all of her accomplishments, in prison since the board already has her information, but she did engage in mental health counseling, completed critical programming such as Thinking for a Change and Victim Impact, deepened her faith, and was on the dean's list for a prison college program. Despite decades of incarceration, Ms. Cobbs has always stayed committed to her family. When her children were younger, she played dominoes with them to help improve their math skills and help them through telephone homework sessions. She encouraged her son to join the military so he could serve something greater than himself. And when her daughter was diagnosed with a rare type of blood cancer, she researched treatment options and healthy foods for her to eat. Ms. Cobb's dedication to motherhood and the success of her children, even from behind bars, touched the victim's sister's heart and is one of the reasons she supports her clemency today. It is also worth mentioning Ms. Cobbs was convicted by a non-unanimous jury, and the Louisiana Supreme Court has stated that clemency is an appropriate remedy for non-unanimous jury convictions. If released, Ms. Cobbs would have the guidance and support of the Parole Project, her loving family, and the Beacon Light Church in Baton Rouge. She hopes to volunteer at a food bank and to bring all the Guard magazine clippings that she sent to her son over the years in her letters to life by helping him tend to his garden. As one of her grandsons stated in his letter of support, my grandmother is elderly and she has seen more days than she has ahead of her. After spending 43 years incarcerated, Ms. Cobbs is now 71 years old. She is one of the longest serving women in Louisiana prisons and lives in the assisted living area. She is also a trustee in the prison. This is the only crime she has committed, and as Dr. McConville stated, she is not a risk to society. We recognize that not every member of the core family supports Ms. Cobb's release, but we believe the connection made between the children of this tragedy and the victim's sister's support are a testament to Ms. Cobb's remorse and accountability for her actions and deserves this board's consideration. We humbly ask the board recommend a commutation to a term of years. Thank you again for your time and consideration today.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate those words. Well spoken. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that is all that will be speaking in favor of Ms. Cobb's request. Now we'll move on to those in opposition, and we will start with Sterling Core, who is in opposition. Mr. Core, are you with us? Sterling?
I am, and can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I believe I'd like to have a different order. I would like to go last because Terry Hessick is there, his law partner, I believe. He signed in.
No, sir, we're gonna allow Mr. Hessick and then the Attorney General and the DA's office to close out. So if you can go ahead and make your comments now.
Okay, fine. That means Brant Hardy, who is on Zoom, will not be speaking on my behalf. He's a counselor, much like McConnell Bob, and he was going to actually make a case for the opposite of what their analyst said. Okay, let me go ahead and say, first of all, I hope everybody had a happy Easter. I am blown away by the pretty picture you all paint for Mrs. Cobbs. There's only 3 people or 4 people in that room right now that has as much history as I and Mrs. Cobbs have, and that is Mr. Hessick and Mr. Sinkfield. I have been the face of opposition on this for 40-something years. But before I get into that, let me just read, and I apologize, I'm extremely emotional and stressed out over this. Again, my name is Sterling Core. I'm the younger brother of the murdered victim, Emmett Core Jr. He was a prominent local attorney and also ran for sheriff. Our faces are covered because we're sincerely afraid for our safety. I don't care what any analyst has to say. You can't guarantee that this person is not going to hurt again, just like they hurt 40-something years ago. I like to remind the board that Hiller Moore was a detective on this case, and John Sinkfield was the prosecutor. Both are in strong no commutation opinion, and Mr. Sinkfield wrote a very heartfelt letter to the board. Brandon, I do thank you for your kind words. We've met before, and you definitely said 20 years ago that you wouldn't be the man you are today if we hadn't been keeping your mother in prison. You have a change of heart, and that's your opinion. My nephew, Jason, who I have a good relationship with, as I have a good relationship with my sister, has less to gain from this decision than I have to lose, for I have a larger footprint of responsibility. He is speaking for one family member, for he has never married nor has children. I, on the other hand, have been married for 35 years with multiple children to protect. Excuse me, and the legacy of my brother and my parents to honor. Like my nephew, my sister has never been involved, does not reside in Baton Rouge. She moved several years after the murder to a Midwestern state. I won't name the state because I don't want to reveal too much. And she has been there for over 40 years, and she doesn't frequent Louisiana very much. I reside in this parish. I have no plans on leaving. So basically, they have less skin in the game than I do. And that's their opinion if they want to push this agenda. But anyway, so from a family perspective, my wife and my deceased mother and myself are the faces of the local opposition. So please take that into consideration. Let me also say, before I get into the heart of my letter, that I am heartbroken and feel a tremendous grief, not only for my family, but just as sincere for hers. We are all victims here, and I mean that. Let me catch my. Releasing her into the general public will not end our grief. This forum is not about opinion as much as it is about facts. And feeling a certain way and having her stay in prison or get out of prison is not going to make your grief go away. This is about facts, not feelings. So with that said, and on behalf of my family, we beg this board to deny Mrs. commutation for the following reasons. And the reasons I'm getting ready to read is the truth, and it has nothing to do with the pretty painted picture that their side presented. Number one, and the main one, not what my family was promised. We took the death penalty off the table to have life imprisonment without parole. She needs to pay her debt to society. Number two, crime is out of control, and releasing inmates early is not a deterrent. The rule of law is maybe modern man's greatest achievement. The law is too important to be toyed with. Her actions must have consequences. Number three, the level of premeditation was extreme and calculated. She was obviously banned from seeing my brother after the custody case. So she planned the murder carefully by making an appointment while a temporary secretary was on duty. She used an assumed name. She was disguised. She filled out paperwork. Old clients don't fill out paperwork, you know. She, again, was there when a temporary secretary was there. She entered my brother's office and shot him in the chest. She then fled to an awaiting car, like she said. She had plenty of time to change her mind. The time span from when she lost custody to the murder was, I believe, many months. It could have been 6 months, but it wasn't hours. She had plenty of time to reconsider and to calm down and take a different direction. Number four, she had a hit list of other attorneys to harm. That should say it all right there. What does that say about her plans? And number five, Mrs. Cobbs never gave up the 38 caliber handgun. This should be a big red flag too. Number six, she has been untruthful, misleading, and dishonest in describing the details on the day of the murder. She has always painted a picture of a woman that needed a shoulder to cry on and sauntered into my brother's office for help. This could not be further from the truth. She didn't saunter. She was not allowed. She's painting a picture that just doesn't represent reality. One thing I've learned from watching past pardon board YouTubes is if you want leniency, you must speak the truth. This to me tells so much of her mental state by being unwilling to own up to her crimes. It is a false reality complex. Number seven, let's not make time an issue. We are only a few years apart and we both have plenty of time left to live. Murder seems like yesterday to me. And Brandon thinks about it all the time, and I think about it every single day. Number eight, the number and type of write-ups are staggering. 121. Don't tell me she's been a model inmate, okay? And which I just heard a moment ago. Number 9, no remorse. Today, you could tell she was a little better coached. Didn't you notice her attorney lean over and say something? So she said she was sorry today twice. In the past, she has shown no remorse and at times acted maniacal. The biggest reveal at the last hearing was a question the pardon board asked her, are you remorseful for your actions? She replied in a very strong, clear voice, no, I would do it all over again. He had it coming. He had it coming. That statement alone says it all. Number 10, this hearing is a result of a loophole of sort from Act 122. I know you people know about this. This hearing is not in the spirit of that law. It is for juveniles who have committed crimes with very long sentences. She was not a 60-year-old teenager hopped up on hormones, but a 28-year-old grown woman with a 5 and a 7-year-old. Commuting this case is just a hop, skip, and a jump to a parole. And I know y'all know this, so please use your wisdom here and don't go that direction. Number 11, and this is where I want some more dialogue. I'm almost done.
Time out. How many numbers do you have on your list?
121. One more.
We
I'll be brief.
okay.
Number 11, from the evidence shared at the last hearing, more needs to be revealed about her schizophrenia. That was brought up at the last hearing, her depression diagnosis and anxiety. So in closing, her sentence was determined by a grand jury and a jury of her peers. She is by no means rehabilitated. No matter what y'all are saying over there, you will not convince me she is ready for the outside. She never will be. Is it wise? Is it wise to unleash someone onto our committee that has lied and misled the board, who has a confused perception of reality, who has a pathetic inmate behavioral record, who has committed a very heinous, cold-blooded, premeditated murder, and most importantly, and this is the critical one, the repeat potential to harm herself and others by way of maybe some mental shortcomings? I say it's not worth the risk, and I hope you agree. Wouldn't it be more beneficial and compassionate to her to let her remain in prison and get the care she needs and the peace of mind we deserve? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Core. We appreciate those words, and we'll take those into serious consideration. I believe the next is Terry Hessig. Is that correct? Mr. Terry Hessig, victim's friend in opposition. Oh, there you are. Thought you were gonna be on Zoom. Thank you, Mr. Hessig.
I'm Terry Hessig. Emmett Ford, the victim, was my law partner and my very good friend. Emmett was 39 when he was murdered by this woman. I managed to reach a ripe old age of 80 years old. Emmett never got that chance. He did represent Carolyn Cobbs in a divorce proceeding. She lost custody of her minor children at that proceeding. But I have some unfortunate truths to give you which do not comport with what Mrs. Cobbs has told you. She lost custody of her children and essentially agreed to transfer of custody because she knew she stood no chance of keeping custody during that proceeding. For the main reason that she had been working as a prostitute. That's the kind of home, if you want to call it that, she would present to those children. Some other facts that Sterling has gone over briefly that I want to call to your attention again. Ms. Cobbs said that she went to several attorneys to get no relief as far as custody. There has to be a reason for that. Also, she's claiming that she went to Mr. Ford to find out what had happened, possibly to get advice, possibly to get counseling. But here's what really happened. When Carolyn Cobbs called to make her appointment, she gave a false name, pretending to be a new client. When Carolyn Cobbs entered our offices, She wore a disguise, a wig, and dark sunglasses. And when our secretary sat down with her, all new clients fill out a form which gives basic information. Their name, their address, their children, their spouse's name and address, their dates of birth, those kinds of things which we need in order to effectively file pleadings for our clients. She sat there with the secretary and gave false name, a false address. And unfortunately for her, she did have some information on there which was truthful, like her date of birth and the children's names, which eventually was how she was caught. But she gave false information while wearing a disguise. She went into Emmett Ford's office, pulled a gun out of the purse and shot him in the heart. She never came to that office to get advice or to get counseling. She came to our offices with the premeditation to kill Emmett Ford. That's the only reason she was there. And she succeeded. And the jury of her peers found her guilty of second-degree murder. Second-degree murder carries a life sentence without probation or parole. She should be made to carry out the sentence. The state and the jury of her peers told her she had to serve. I am not convinced that this woman has ever been remorseful. Frankly, I am in fear for myself and family, and for Mr. Forrest's family, and for Sterling and his wife and their children. This woman is allowed to roam the streets again, brood over the people like myself who have kept her in prison all these years. She apparently has been doing fairly well in prison. She's been getting psychiatric and psychological help. The warden thinks she's a good prisoner, and that frankly is where she should stay for the remainder of her years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We appreciate your words. All right, we will hear now from Mr. John Singfield. With the Attorney General's office.
Yeah, Honorable Commission, John St. Bill, I'm currently executive counsel for the Attorney General Liz Moore. Formerly, I was Chief Deputy Attorney General to Governor Jeff Landry, and before that, Senior Counsel Jeff Landry for 8 years. Spent 11 years under O.C. Brown, prosecuting cases and became Chief Deputy District Attorney late in my career, and I came back to that 6 years as first assistant DA for Richard I. Ubo and County Chief Parish before he became Attorney General. And I served 17 years as first assistant DA at the Parole. Until I moved over to the Attorney General's office as first assistant Attorney General by Cobbs. I give that background because I have some disagreement with some of the stuff they had. I tried Carolyn Cobbs, and what I saw, which is rare, I've been prosecuting murder cases over 50 years in the state. And y'all see a lot of them. There's a lot of drug murders that are premeditated. I tried Derek Todd Lee, gave him the death penalty. He had a lot of premeditated murders, so they are. But one like this stands out to me because I was very close by, and there was still wet blood all over this whole scene. I was at the crime scene, and probably a few minutes after it happened, I don't know if I beat the coroner there or not. Well, what was very plain here is I hear all this about her being upset and emotionally involved. I hear the psychiatrist. I would love to cross examine him, but sometimes they don't hold up so well when they face cross examination by an experienced prosecutor. But one thing here that was said was wrong is when, I guess, the son says she feels she has paid her debt to society. When you do a premeditated murder and you take your time, which she did, and she made a decision that another human being was going to die that day, and she disguised her house. I'll defer to the record. I haven't viewed the record. But she had on a wig and sunglasses. She filled out an application with false information. She went in and shut the door. And it was a very short period of time, as I recall, that bam, you heard the gunshot. Shot Mr. Core right in the chest, hit his heart. And then she made her way out of there. And she didn't have any immediate remorse. We had to figure out who did it. We had to pull files. I forget exactly. I'll defer to the record. Y'all may know more about it than me. But what is the punishment when you just decide that another human being is going to die on a certain time, which she did, and you just walk in there and kill somebody? You've made a decision. State of Louisiana made a decision. We can't stop them from doing that. State of Louisiana made a decision. When you do that, the punishment ought to be life without suspension, probation, and parole. Not life without suspension, probation, parole for a certain period of time. Then you get out and get to enjoy your family, enjoy life, and be around Baton Rouge. So I disagree. I don't think she has paid her debt to society. I think there's a big deficit yet to be paid that debt. She hasn't paid it. Oh. They don't think she'd be a threat to anyone. I don't know. Is she blaming the people in this room? Is she blame me? I prosecuted her. She blamed the lawyer that we pulled the tape. And it didn't look like what I recall, now for the record, didn't look like he did a lot wrong in that here that she got blamed. She blamed for. You know, I have experience of family members being got to by the lawyers or other people and showing up. I live in Baton Rouge, inside the city limits of Baton Rouge. So I guess I'm glad here, because at least I know what she looks like if y'all let her out. I would urge you not to do this. She doesn't deserve it. When you make that premeditated decision that you're going to execute another human being, and you do it very cleverly, she could have got away with this with a little bit of luck. If she'd been a little better at that application, if she'd been a little better not putting it so close to her house, a little whatever, because the secretary didn't recognize. So I've heard everything here. The only thing I can do is say on behalf of the state of Louisiana, we would request you to please deny this application for compensation. I'd answer any questions anybody has.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate those words, and we'll consider those along with these other things. Ms. Tracy Barbara.
Good morning, Tracy Barbera for the East Baton Rouge District Attorney's Office. I apologize for not being present in person, but I decided to bring my congestion and coughs to Healer's office and not before the members of the board. I think this is the first time in my 36-year career I've had to follow John Sinkfield with comments. It's somewhat intimidating, I must admit, and honestly, there's not much more that I can add to what Mr. Core, Mr. Hessick, and Mr. Sinkfield have represented to you. I would just like to bring home the fact that the individual, Carolyn Cobbs, who spoke to you last time, made reference to she went there with questions and she just lost it. And then again today, she said, I went there to ask him questions. My emotions got the better of me. I was not myself. To this day, she is still not being completely forthright with you about her intent when she did just as Mr. Sinkfield described. She armed herself with the firearm, went to the law office, disguised herself. This woman clearly intended to go there and kill Mr. Kaur, and she still will not acknowledge that. Until she acknowledges that to herself, her family, and to this board, I represent to you that she has not even come close to meeting what this board has historically required before recommending the relief that she requests. She represented to you last time, she tried to be a model prisoner. She's being represented to you today as a model prisoner. Again, as I said last time, I hate to be a broken record, but you have had people before you who have served more time than Ms. Cobbs has, who have had 0 write-ups or 1 or 2 early write-ups. 121 write-ups, the last one being an aggravated offense, is not indicative of someone who should be recommended for clemency and released. I stand firm with the Kaur, Mr. Kaur, and Mr. Sinkfield and Mr. Hessick, and ask that you please not recommend commutation of sentence. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And the final speaker in opposition will be Mr. Brant Hardy. Is Mr. Hardy here or on Zoom?
Yes, I am, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Board. I will, in light of everything that's been said, I'd like to address one specific issue. There's so much more that I could say. I've watched the Kaur family, who I'm very close friends with for almost 40 years, suffer from this. The family, it is a constant source of concern and outcome that today's hearing will bring to bear. In my mind, as you all are aware, there's a tremendous difference as a context of forgiveness and consequences. I'm a mental health counselor licensed here in the state of Louisiana as a licensed professional counselor, practicing over 43 years. I've worked extensively in my practice also with victim defendant mediation. So I've had the unique front row seat to watch people who have committed very serious crimes ask for relief and forgiveness from families that they've offended. In this circumstance, I can't address all the history that you all have so much more than I do, but the context of what Ms. Barbera and Mr. Sinkfield has said from a public standpoint, there's a practical and common sense understanding here that, you know, life in prison means life in prison. The dynamic of this consequence on this family, wanting their mother to come home, I appreciate that. And I feel for the family and I encourage forgiveness, but there is a difference between forgiveness and consequence. All of us should forgive when there's an offense such as this, because otherwise we're not released and free emotionally. So forgiveness is absolutely essential. But the consequence, as Mr. Sinkfield said, is a debt that's paid because of the heinous act. And so feelings cannot come into play in this, in my opinion, as a public citizen, but also as a friend of the family. There are real concerns for their safety and welfare. But in this context, please do not commute this sentence that puts anyone at further risk of harm. And I think you protect the family, you protect Mr. Hessick. And I also think the dynamic that was just said by Ms. Barbera, I think the truth is that keeping her in custody is the best outcome for her from a health standpoint, from a mental health standpoint, and also from a real context of consideration for what life in prison without the ability of parole means. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hardy. We appreciate those words. I believe, and I could stand corrected, but I believe that's all the speakers that we're going to have, either in opposition or in favor of this request of Ms. Cobb. Now, Ms. Cobb, the next portion, as I think you know, we'll ask our questions, and I'll lead, and then my rest of the panel will have a chance to ask questions. and then we will vote. It's as simple as that. I've got a couple of questions, to clear up some of the things that I've heard. Why did you set the appointment to go there to the attorney's office?
Well, sir, I had been trying to see him for a while and I wasn't able to see him, so I decided to try a new name. Maybe I get a chance to see him.
Okay. Where did you get the gun?
I bought it from a pawn shop
When did you buy it?
after me and my husband separated.
How soon was that before the shooting of your attorney?
It'd been a year, sir.
So you had had the gun a year. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why did you disguise yourself?
Sir, to my recollection, I didn't disguise myself. I didn't wear a wig.
To your recollection? You know if you wore a wig or not. But it's in
No,
your
sir,
mind.
I hate my hair. There was no wig.
Okay. What did you do with the gun afterwards?
I threw it into the water, sir.
Where?
Off a bridge.
What bridge?
I don't remember.
Okay. I've heard some discussions about your mental health. Do you currently take medicine?
Yes, sir.
Were you taking medicine at the time?
I don't remember, sir.
When were you diagnosed with the mental health problems?
Sometimes right after my husband and I separated.
But you don't remember if you were taking medicine. Do you remember what kind of medicine you were prescribed?
Could have been a Valium, sir, or something like that.
Could have been, but what was it? Yes, sir.
No, go ahead.
You don't remember what kind of medicine it was?
I can't say for certain, sir, no.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. Let's see. I'm concerned about your disciplines. Tell me why you have so many disciplines. Is there a common denominator? Is there a something that causes you not to follow the rules or causes you not to get along with people or something? Could you explain your disciplines?
Well, yes, sir. I was had never been incarcerated or locked up before. And prison life is different. And you have all types of women from every walk of life. And I had time adjusting to prison life. And I think I might have had some bad medication when I was in prison.
Okay. And because reason I say that, and we hear people say they had trouble adjusting. And so they have some disciplines and all, but your disciplines lasted for a long time. Is what concerns me up through basically 2020, but primarily through 2018, you had a lot of disciplines. Over 100 disciplines. That's more than just, I would think it's more than just adjusting. Usually adjusting is the first 2 or 3 years. So I was concerned about that. Let's see, I believe that may be all the questions, but I may come back after I hear
I'd like to ask some questions.
okay.
How long have you been incarcerated?
Almost 44 years, sir.
Okay, I've forgotten things in less time than that, and I can understand 44 years, you don't recall a lot of these things. Warden, do you feel that how long has she been with you?
How long have I been here or how long has she been here?
How long has she been under your supervision?
So she's been here since 1983. I've been here since 2021.
2020. And what kind of prisoner would you say she is?
Like I said earlier, since I've been here and with her, she's been in the assisted living dormitory. So, like I said, she hasn't been any trouble for me since I've been here.
That's what I thought I heard. Are you remorseful?
Sir?
Are you remorseful?
Oh, sir, from the beginning, I was confused and I was in torment.
Are you remorseful now?
I was back then and I still am, sir. I should not have shot and killed Mr. Core. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I let my emotions get the better of me.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Core, we've heard very important arguments on both sides of this issue. Your life sentence, there's no doubt about it in my mind that it was entirely premeditated. Everything you did from I read, because I was on the board the last time you were up here. And I remember the case from then, and we had a little bit more information leading up to it. And so I know my vote then was not to commute you. Then I've read the letter from the victim's son, which is heartbreaking. And I do understand, because I'm a victim's advocate, I do understand that there are times when, in order for a victim to heal, they do need the same type of closure for a different reason, which is what's been said here. The rest of the family members, they want their nephew or their son to have closure, and he's a very kind person. And he met with your children, from what I understand from what was being said here. And so they had, and I know how victim offender dialogue is. I know how important that is for a victim and the offender. And it seems like that's what we have that was going on here. So I'm very happy that they had that. But see, right now, I listened to Mr. Prater. He questioned you again. He questioned you, and I listened, and you were still evasive about what you did that day. And I don't even understand the purpose anymore. Where did you throw the gun at? Water. We all live right here in Baton Rouge. And then you don't remember wearing a wig or anything. And How did you get there last time? Seems like the last time I read that you had arranged for transportation to bring you and pick you up. Did you take a taxi or something last time? How did you get to his office?
Ma'am, I have an automobile. I had an automobile.
So you just drove yourself over there, okay. Everything that I remember from reading the last time and this time was that you did go in there with a gun in your purse. That's not the normal thing for people to do. So, I don't buy the part that you were confused and everything. But my heart does go out for the families on both sides. I do want to say that. For the very reasons that they stated. But I did find you continually still evasive today when actually asked about particular crime. So, and about the mental health issue, you were evasive about that too. So that's all I have to say for today.
So how long have you lived in the assisted living dorm? Do you remember?
Maybe about 6 months.
Oh, so you just got moved there? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
What was the job you had before you moved into that dorm?
It was housekeeping, ma'am.
Okay. All right. I think everybody did a really good job. Go ahead.
How long were you in his office before you shot him?
I don't remember, sir. Seconds, minutes, I don't remember.
Did y'all talk about much?
No, sir.
So you pretty much had your mind made up.
Sir, I just lost it. I was under pressure. So much pressure that I lost my reason and I just.
What
was
happens
out
when
of
you
my
get
mind.
out? What happens when you get out and you forget to take your medicine and you get under pressure at Brookshire's?
Beg your pardon, sir.
What happens when somebody breaks in line in front of you at Brookshire's and you've forgotten you hadn't been taking your medicine because everything's fine and you're out of jail? I don't know if y'all have Brookshire's around here.
Well, you better.
Walmart. Anyway, it's kind of a rhetorical question, meaning I didn't expect much of an answer. But I just wanted to ask that question to tell you that's the kind of decisions this board has to wrestle with, along with everything else that's been submitted, is the safety of the public.
So I have one question for you, Ms. Cobbs, and then we'll be ready to vote. When you went there that day, you went there to kill Mr. Core.
No, ma'am.
Why'd you have the gun?
I carried the gun with me everywhere I went.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
I'd like to have executive session, please.
We have a motion. Is there a second? A second. Can you call the roll?
Renassa,
Yes.
Prater,
Yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
thank you.
All the kind of stuff that we have in two places.
All right. I'll make the motion to go back to regular session without objection. We're back in regular session. It's 10:50. And we are prepared to vote. Mr. Prater?
Yes, ma'am. Because I've weighed everything and heard your chief, and we've been here long enough. My vote has not changed. I still vote that this request be denied. It's because of the violent nature of the premeditated crime. It's also because of the numbers of disciplines since you've been incarcerated, and it's a lot of disciplines, and they've lasted up through 2020. And that bothers me, because of the severe opposition and well-stated opposition from the law enforcement community. And because of the premeditation. And I still feel like, well, because of premeditation, so my vote has not changed from the last hearing. And my vote is to not recommend to the governor that we do this.
Mr. Tillis.
My vote is to recommend to grant with to 99 years. And I am so happy to see that the family has forgiven this person. And I think 44 years is a long time. I appreciate and feel that you have remorsefulness and hope that some of us will get in our hearts to have mercy and forgive people. So my vote is to grant.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I gotta tell you, I am very torn with this one because I've been on both sides. I'm a victim's advocate. I know about victim offender dialogue and what a powerful method of forgiveness that is. And closure for a victim. And that's what I've heard here today. That means a lot to me. And I'm so happy for his son and his sisters that they've reached that point and have had contact with your children. I do find, though, that this was a premeditated act. Even to this moment, that it was a premeditated act. Like you said, you just spent a minute or so in his office. So there's no way to not believe that you didn't go in there with a gun in your purse to kill the man. And so I didn't know until the brother mentioned that it was a possible death penalty case. They took that off the table. I don't know about that, but a jury decided that it would be life without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence or anything like that. So, so we have strong law enforcement opposition because it was premeditated and it was such a violent crime. So today I'm going to stay with and you've continued to have discipline problems. But now that you're in the assisted living area, it seems like maybe this is a good fit for you. So maybe some more time in the assisted living, your medication may have gotten just right, because that's very important for you to have a life outside of there or anywhere. I don't want to see any discipline problems. So you do have one in latest, I think it was 2020, and it was and all your discipline problems have been aggravated discipline, a lot of them. So yeah, I see June of 2020 that you had one was your latest one. So my vote today is gonna be to deny due to the nature of the premeditation to kill the attorney, the law enforcement opposition, and we still have split victim opposition. And you've had excessive disciplinary problems while you've been in.
So Ms. Cobbs, today you didn't get the vote you needed. It takes four light votes. And so I'm not going to vote, but I will tell you, I'm a little disappointed that you didn't take full ownership of your emotions that day, what happened. I mean, I know you say you lost it, but I think there's more that you need to come to terms with, just like the DA has expressed. So I hope you continue to work on that. I'm glad you're doing well where you're at, but today your application for clemency has been denied. Good luck to you.
I'm going to go over the appeal so we can get like some more facts on the case. But first, I want to get some things off of my chest, right? Which is, okay, I'm sorry to say this, but yeah, I have to start with Tillis. Again, I don't know what that man is on, but the idea that I don't, he clearly doesn't know what's flying. His questions, he always does the same thing. He asks the redundant questions. How long have you been locked up? Are you kidding? Like, what are you even saying? But then he goes on to say, I'm so happy that the family has forgiven this person. And I think 44 years is a long time. I appreciate and feel your remorsefulness. And I hope that some of us will get in our hearts to forgive these people. And it's like, it, it's just, did you not see that it's a divided case? Half the family is fighting to keep her in while the other half is not. And then for you to attack their remorsefulness, and it rubs me the wrong way on so many levels. The craziness of it is now that's it. I'm done. I'm done with Tillis. It was it was powerful, I think, to see Miss Stapleton actually break down in tears to go over with this, and you can see how closely it touches her and how torn she is. But she's able to side on the side of logic, really. And I mean, this case, it's it's really mind blowing. It really is. Remember, she was denied less than a year ago, and she comes back with a second bite at the apple. And it's interesting. I guess you have to give her support. I do believe the support tried to coach her as much as possible. I do believe they invested the time. They had a notebook in front of her with notes of what to say, and maybe they didn't invest enough time, but they realized, like, okay, we need to make, like, she's her worst enemy. We need to make sure that she doesn't say anything stupid. And I bring this up because we see in so many hearings where the parole project comes on and in their monotone voice say the same pitch that they say for everybody else. And then the first question is thrown at the inmate, and the inmate says something absolutely unhinged. And it's like, how is it possible that the inmate's saying something like that so unhinged? Like, like, did you not give them invest a minute into preparing them for this moment, for this most important moment of their life, for their freedom? And I do think that they did invest time because she had that notebook in front of her, but she completely went off script and just went to herself again, denying the most ridiculous things. Like, this case has been adjudicated in court of law. We hear from the DA. Like, we know all you have to do is say, yeah, I went in there premeditatedly to kill him. But she still can't do that. Maybe I'm giving her support too much credit for coaching her. Maybe they just, I don't know. But it's like, no, I didn't get disguised. I just went in there to talk with him. And frankly, I'm still a little confused about this case. I'm a little confused. My understanding was up until the DA spoke, my understanding is that she gets divorced, loses custody of her children. She hires an attorney to get custody back. That attorney does nothing. She asks for her money back, $500, which he gives her the money back. It's not like he said, no, it's my money. He gives it back to her. Then she goes shopping around for another attorney. That attorney tells her, don't even try. Once it's adjudicated, it's adjudicated. This is stupid to even try. And that triggers her, gets her so pissed off that she goes back to the attorney that gave her her money back, and she kills him. Now, that was my understanding of this case up until the DA said, the district attorney that prosecuted the case said that we looked at the tapes. And by the tapes, it looked like he did a good job representing her. So I'm not sure if it's the attorney that represented her on the custody battle or if it's the attorney that represented her afterwards and gave her the $500 back. I'm still not sure. So if anyone wants to clarify that for me in the comment section, it makes more sense when it's the attorney that represented her, and it makes zero sense. I'm not saying it makes sense at all, but it makes at least it's like, that's where your anger would be. You would feel, but the other way is like, what? But anyways, none of it. You hear these cases, and what happens all the time is there's a divorce, and the woman goes and kills her ex-husband, or kills him before he gets divorced, or kills the ex-husband's lover. But where you go and kill the attorney, it is so it's unheard of. It's never been, which again, which is why I was surprised, true crime documentaries, whatever it is, it's like they run out of cases to talk about. They do the same thing rerun over and over and over. And meanwhile, you have a case right here that is the most insane case that I've ever seen. I mean, I guess that's a loaded statement, but in terms of it's just so different. And you find out in this case, and you got to say the opposition was remarkable. Everybody who spoke was well rehearsed, um, good orators. They had everything figured out, right? They had like the mental health specialist to come in to counter their. They had the actual DA who prosecuted it. You have the brother who's just like with all his points and even the sense of humor on point 100, and you have then Tracy, who's my favorite, and she comes in. And, what I love about Tracy is that she might have had a prepared speech, but she throws it out the window after she hears everything from everybody. She's just able to go out and instead of just wanting to hear her own voice, she comes in and just says, look, everything was stated already. So I'm going to state, what to reemphasize. And she brings up like the prison record. And it is true. We covered how many cases the prison record that this woman has. It shows that she is clearly still dangerous. And people say, oh well, she's look at her age. She can, what is she 71 years old? Like what's going to happen? It's what she gets out and she feels like she needs revenge, and a 71-year-old can still manage to do something. Also, you find out that she was a prostitute, and that's why she didn't get custody. Because, yeah, I was wondering too, how is it possible? But it's not just how is it possible. Clearly, the judge made the right decision. If you are unstable enough that you're going to kill your attorney, clearly the judge made the right decision in making sure she didn't have custody. Clearly, that judge knew what they were doing. And yeah, that was probably incredibly rare to happen, that a man would win custody. 1982, I don't know if that can ever, but she was obviously so unhinged even at that time. That it was an obvious decision that she would not have custody at all of her children. It is weird hearing the support. They try to paint this picture to pretend we're all stupid. Oh, she's great in prison. Oh, she's, remorseful. And it's like they paint this picture, one that doesn't exist at all. Everything they said is a lie. You don't feel the sense that she's remorseful. You really don't. You still feel that she feels like, at least for me, I still feel that she feels that she was right for killing him because she was wronged. I feel that way. And how do you still deny that you didn't premeditate this murder? Just admit it. And it is horrible to have the family torn between each other, and it's like I don't know what I would do in that situation, but I think what you have to do is always side on the side of the victims, and then the victims bring up some really solid points, like, hey, we live here, we're involved in this directly. Like you want to go through your own journey of forgiveness. That's good for you. But then here's the difference. It's like you go through the journey of forgiveness. Again, that's good. But then to go and tear the family apart further by fighting against the other victims is something hard to wrap my mind around. It's like it's creating more pain and suffering. You can forgive. This is your own journey. Your mother, the the you can forgive the killer. You can do your own thing, whatever it is that you're deciding to do when we see that happen in these cases where there's a mother and there are two siblings or whatever. But then to then go on the opposition against your own family member that's something I can never wrap my mind around. Um, let me show you. Thank you, Sir Richard, for pulling the research. Thank you, Annan, for the notes. On June 14th, 1982, an appointment was made by the defendant, Carolyn M. Cobbs, to see the decedent, George Amit Kaur, an attorney, to discuss legal matter. The appointment was made for the following date, June 15th, 1982, at 4 p.m. Miss Cobbs made the appointment under the name of Barbara Johnson. At 3:40 p.m., Miss Cobbs called Mr. Kaur's office and confirmed that her appointment was at 4 p.m. The completed form was taken to Mr. Kaur, where he reviewed it and asked to see a client. Miss Cobbs entered Mr. Kaur's office, and the door was shut behind them. After a minute or two of brief conversation, Miss Cobbs and Mr. Kaur, Miss Cobbs shot Mr. Kaur with a single shot from a .38 caliber revolver in the right upper chest, a wound from which Mr. Kaur died a short time later. Miss Cobbs left the office, remaining in Baton Rouge for several hours. She then left to go to Houston, Texas, where she obtained an apartment and remained there for several days. So, like, you know, she even had somewhere to go. She absconded to a different state. She then voluntarily returned to Baton Rouge, where she was arrested and charged with Mr. Kaur's murder. Several months prior to this incident, Ms. Cobbs, then Caroline Matthews, had retained Mr. Kaur as her attorney to handle a divorce and obtain a change of her name from Matthews to Cobbs. Mr. Kaur had obtained a divorce for Ms. Cobbs, but the permanent custody and control of the minor children were awarded to Ms. Cobbs' former husband, Cleveland Matthews. Okay, so here's the answer to my original question. I should have read this before. But okay. So I just don't understand why she even brings up the whole idea. Like, she brings up into her story, well, then I hired another attorney to try to get my children back. Like, it's just like this weird convoluted story that I guess we see like gaslighters always do, right? I don't know. Maybe she's saying that part of the story because she wants folks to know that she was really wanted her children back, and she was really trying, and she was trying other alternatives, and this was only her last straw. I don't know. Maybe that's the part of the story. To obtain a divorce, okay. Miss Cobbs wrote a letter to the Baton Rouge Bar Association seeking assistance from that body to correct what she considered an injustice. Subsequent to the time, Miss Cobbs made the appointment with Mr. Kaur on June 15, 1982. So then Carolyn Cobbs was indicted for second-degree murder, murder of killing. And this is the interesting thing. I thought second-degree murder, this is clearly first-degree murder. But I believe that at the time the legislation wrote first-degree murder, they wrote it as second-degree murder, and maybe first-degree murder was like an aggravated murder, but second-degree means premeditated. So that is why. Then it is somehow she was found guilty of 11-1, and you don't need a unanimous guilty verdict in the state of Louisiana, at least at the time. It is interesting to think, like, who is that jury? What did the jury? Oh no, she made a fake appointment and went in there, and it wasn't premeditated. But there's always crazy jurists. It's just the way it is. I don't know. Maybe there was like a mother jurist who was just like, I could understand it, but that doesn't make a difference. Actually, I don't know, it's just so stupid. Sentenced to life without benefit of parole or suspension of sentence, October 29, 1982. The criminal appeal followed, and there's nothing else really to go over. I could put a link in the description, but I feel like there's a lot I'm missing in this unpacking. There is a lot that I want to say. I thought the board did an interesting job. I guess I don't really know where they messed up in the first hearing, where they said that they didn't allow all the speakers to speak. I didn't, maybe it was just a mistake, but I didn't see anything. I didn't catch anything where exactly that happened. It was also interesting how this time around the sheriff was like really cautious. He wanted to make sure nothing happened. And then that they allowed all the speakers to speak pretty much as long as they wanted. There was not one wrap it up given in there. They just said, okay, we're not going to mess around. They're already making us do this hearing a second time. And it is interesting. I didn't watch the hearings yet for the rest of the day. I don't know if they extended that rule to all the other hearings. I'll have to find out. I'll watch those other hearings later. But there you go. I think one of the craziest stories, a woman who loses full custody of her children and then kills the attorney. And it's when you just take the most obvious clear, it's like it just it befuddles the mind. You're not going to get your children back now. You're killing the attorney because you felt you were. It's like it's just so unhinged. It's so insane. And Sir Richard's like, wow, there's a lot of men that would love to have her as their ex-wife, right? It's like a 2-for-1 special.
Is it wise? Is it wise to unleash someone onto our committee that has lied and misled the board, who has a confused perception of reality, who has a pathetic inmate behavioral record, who has committed a very heinous, cold-blooded, premeditated murder, and most importantly, and this is the critical one, the repeat potential to harm herself and others by way of maybe some mental shortcomings? I say it's not worth the risk, and I hope you agree. Wouldn't it be more beneficial and compassionate to her to let her remain in prison and get the care she needs and the peace of mind we deserve? Thank you.